All right. Good morning, everyone, and happy Sunday to you. I am excited to welcome you to another one of our Sunday conversations. Listen, I'm going to bring on our special guest for today and then take a little bit to introduce them to you, and we're going to get started. But if you've joined us, why don't you put into the comment box where you're from, where you're joining from, say hello to us. And then if you have any questions for Dr. and Dr. Medley, just make sure you drop them in the comment box. I am so excited to welcome Dr. India and Dr. Anthony Medley to our broadcast this morning. Let me just share a little bit with you about the star of today. Dr. India Medley is currently the Vice President and Chief Nursing Officer at Howard University Hospital. And she, of course, is married to the guy sitting next to her. And I had better treat you right because people don't know our relationship. So let me even respect you as well. Dr. Anthony Medley is the senior pastor of the Emmanuel Brinkow Church in Ashton, Maryland. I want to welcome both of you all to the broadcast. And why don't you all just greet everybody and tell us a little something about yourselves in way of introduction.
Well, good morning, everyone. I am India and very honored and happy to be here on this platform with each one of you. Anyone who really knows me knows that my passion is truly my family. So Tony, Milan and Anthony being our adult children, mean the world to me. So they bring me joy, and they are at the core, I say at the core of my very being. So very happy to be here.
Good morning, everyone. We are delighted to be here too. Thank you, Dr. Dave Defoe. We got to keep this on a certain level today. I understand that. We're going to hold back because folk don't know the depth and the compassion of our relationship. So we're going to do our best to keep this professional today. But as India mentioned, we are delighted to be here. We're here because of you, David.
Yes.
Because you wanted us here, so we're here because of our respect for you and for the opportunity to share together. So we're just delighted to be a part of this program today.
Sure. Listen, and the hour's going to go by real quick. And so we're going to just jump into some of these questions, but we won't bring up our past history and the fact that you were my youth director as a kid. Yes, you're that old. You were my youth director as a kid and you stole a Bible Bowl championship from me. But we're going to just not talk about that. So can you all tell us a little bit about how you all first met? Let's just jump into the conversation. No need for you to respond to what I said, Dr. Medley. But how did you all first meet?
We met as students at Pine Forge Academy in the 10th grade.
Absolutely. And back to your Bible Bowl issue, when individuals really are concerned about studying the Bible, they don't hold on to grudges. That's a biblical principle. But yes, we met at Pine Forge Academy, and we were high school sweethearts there.
Okay. All right. And so tell us some of the things about some of the biggest blessings that you've seen in your marriage, or tell us about what makes your marriage unique.
Wow. Well, I'll start the segment. I think the first blessing was Pine Forge. Meeting India and being around what I thought were successful Black young people was very positive. It began to model and to shape me as a person. Although I wasn't always ready for it, the seeds were being planted there. And I think what's I was so unique about our relationships is that through the years, the good and the bad, we had good and bad even when we were dating. But through the years, we have maintained a solid friendship. And we grew early to really know each other. And so that's one of the unique things about us, that our friendship didn't start just to date. We were friends before.
Right.
We were prepared to be married. We were good friends.
Yeah. And that's where I was going to start, actually. We began as friends as teenagers. And kind of as we were growing up, we not necessarily grew up together. We weren't married or anything like that, but we knew each other back when we were teenagers. So it wasn't like dating on the internet and having to go through the chronicles and chapters of your life. for most of it, we kind of witnessed it in each other. Whether we were still dating or if we were friends, we still witnessed the journey, each other's journey together. So that's very unique. And I have to say also that being a pastoral couple makes us unique in many ways, because we've moved quite a bit. And I think I actually counted, moving within a state or moving out of state. I would say I came to a total, I was telling Tony, it's like 21, 22 times we've moved. And that's a lot. And especially when you have children, and there are all kinds of things that one must consider when you're in that kind of a relationship as well. So I would say that makes us pretty unique, Yeah.
So I heard you all talk about friendship, and this is a conversation that many people who come on these shows mention, that friendship is very important. Like, talk to some people who maybe are dating or looking for someone about how developing friendships sort of propels or prepares you to have a better or more stronger marriage.
Yeah. There are different types or different levels of friendships. I'll start there, because you have friends, and you have friends with benefits, and you have that label of friends, but maybe you're a little more than that or a little less than that, truly. But it is critical to get to know someone without having the pressure of being in a relationship. I think that makes it uniquely strong and relaxing. No anxiety about having to put up pretenses or, this is what he likes, and this is what he needs, so I'll pretend to be that person. And there's no pretense when you're really a friend. You are truly who God made you to be, and able to receive things from each other. Some things that aren't very comfortable, a friend can say to each other, when you did that, that wasn't cool, and that was hurtful. And even if your friend is in a relationship with someone else, you could still be that neutral person who is accepting, but very honest at the same time.
Wow, that was good. That was good stuff. I can add to that.
Sure.
You don't have a lot of friends. I think we get caught in trying to have a volume of friends, but you grow over the years. Having a few good friends really makes the big difference.
Yeah.
And in the relationship model, it is interesting how friendships mirror what happens in the weather. If you're moving forward with something positive, if it's a slow rain, if it's a thunderstorm that is a quick rain, chances are what starts fast, ends fast. So good friends are like slow rain. They're with you in not only the slow rainy season, but in all the seasons. So you use that kind of to monitor where you are in terms of relationships. If it's a quick fix, it's going to end quick. Some things take time to develop over the course of the friendship spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is absolutely good, sound, strong advice. But sort of tell me how you all handle conflict. So I just heard you, Dr. India, say to him, "Oh, that's not nice." Is that how you yell at him? Like, when he gets on your nerves, what do you do? Like, 'cause I know he gets on your nerves. But anyway, neither here nor there. How do you handle conflict? How do you handle work-life balances? And then, are there any examples that you think you can share with someone else? Because after all, we're trying to help people.
Right. That's a great question with so many parts to it. Over the years, we've been married for 36 years. And over the years, we have grown. Now, remember, we've known each other since we were teenagers. I think I was 14 and he was 15. And so we knew each other, but we still had to get to know each other as a married couple, you know, day in, day out, being together. And so I've grown a lot since, you know, July 8th, 1984, when we were married. And I know Tony has as well. And we had premarital counseling. You know, we didn't take anything for granted, that we knew each other or anything like that. We, you know, we took the Prepare Enrich testing, you know, during our engagement. Actually, before we were engaged, it was like the pre-engagement and the temperament tests. I mean, you know, Tony, being the pastor, had all of these resources, and he had other people within the ministry whom he respected to counsel us and guide us through that process. So even with all that, you go into it still not knowing, you know, and a lot of things that I fell back on was what I may have observed or experienced in my own family life growing up as well. Things that I thought were normal or healthy, and found out it just truly wasn't. So, you know, through the years in my own growth, I had to realize that, once again, everybody says this, but it's true, it's communication, and no fear of being vulnerable with your husband or with your spouse, because it's just no hiding at that point. And so when you ask, David, what do I do if I'm angry or frustrated with Tony? You know, now 36 years later and leading up to it, I just say it, you know, like,
I thought you were going to say you beat him.
No, I don't do that.
Not physically.
Yeah. Yeah. But I say it, and I say it in knowing it's safe to say it. And that whether he receives it the way that I'm giving it or the way that I'm intending, because that happens a lot too. I'll say something and he totally didn't receive it the way I intended it. And I'll even say, no, I didn't say it like that. And he said, yes, you did. And I'm like, no, I didn't. I'm the giver. I know it's in my mind and where I'm coming from. He said, that being said, India, that's not how I received it. And so then I had to grow and learn that his perception is his reality, and accept it. And that my perception is my reality. And so if he's saying that's not how he received it, then I need to pause and listen more than talk, you know, and really learn from where he is. And then all defenses are down. But it took time, you know, it really took years, you know, making errors and jumping to conclusions and just really getting annoyed and letting the emotions cloud, you know, my reasoning. But here we are, and I think we're really at a really great point for communication within our communication.
Sure. And if I can just add to that,
sure.
You know, conflict and maturity and communication, you know, got to work together. Being married doesn't mean you automatically know how to resolve issues.
Yeah.
And as India's mentioned, we bring our own experiences, how conflict was handled, basically not handled in our own home environments.
Yeah.
And everything you say you're not going to do,
you do.
You know, when I get married, this is not going to happen. Well, actually, it does.
It does.
But I think that there were also some fundamental principles that we established, no matter how difficult the conflicts have been over the year. And we've had our share of conflicts. Number one, there was never going to be any verbal or physical engagement. Those things are off the table for our marriage. Number two, you're not going anyplace. Conflict does not mean your marriage is going to be dissolved. We believe it's for better or for worse. That's important. And the third thing is really fighting through your own immaturity on dealing with conflicts and how to deal with those things. And God often would give, you know, I think that I would say that India handled it better than I did earlier in our marriage because I didn't have models to do it. You know, the only thing I knew is to be angry or get silent. But there was something else you got to do. You got to communicate. And that was a difficult journey to learn and to be transparent. So, but it makes a difference when you grow together, when you realize you're in this for life. And we made a covenant early that we could be miserable by ourselves. If we're going to be married, we got to be happy. And happiness is a fullness of being able to grow through different challenges together.
Mm-hmm.
So for those people who may be struggling with managing conflict, right? Do you have any suggestions or recommendations for them in helping them, no matter what stage they are in their marriage, either seeking help or growing? Like what advice would you give them if they're struggling in their own marriages, handling and managing conflict, or personality differences or gender differences?
Mm-hmm. You know, I think it is, you have to have courage to accept things about yourself. I mean, real courage. And some things it's taken me years to accept about myself, and in all honesty. And so I am a proponent of getting help on the outside. You know, therapy, counseling is priceless. And whether you're doing it to work on yourself as an individual or as a couple. And I would suggest that knowing where you are in your relationship, you would have to be able to determine best what you need as a priority. You're working on yourself or working on the relationship or both. And it's so critically important that you have a therapist that has the same belief values and principles that you do. If you are a Christian at your core, it's not going to be a good match, a good fit to have a therapist who doesn't believe in God, you know, because then you got to work through all those. That's going to bring up even more conflict within yourself. So it's not an easy thing to find that person right away, but just like, you know, it's not an easy thing to find a really good physician that's going to be a good fit for you, personality wise and access wise and communication wise. It's the same thing with getting help from a professional therapist. And I underscore professional therapists, our friends, God bless them, but they're biased. And I'll be the first to say that, you know, our friends are biased. And so if you're really having difficulties, if this becomes a chronic problem, chronic meaning it's lasting month after month after month, and definitely if you're still feeling this way or having these issues a year later or more than a year later, then you do truly need professional help. And that's what I would say.
That's excellent. And I ditto everything that she just said. Well, I do want to circle back, and I agree that friends can be biased, but I think that it's also good, as we talked about friendships before, you know, there are some couples who can journey with you, who have been through things.
That's true.
And it's always good to have positive reinforcement with healthy couples who have been where you are, but who are still staying the course for that. So in addition to the professional counseling, is to make sure that you're surrounded in your community by positive couples, things that you have in common that can also strengthen you. And sometimes it's just the husband or the wife that you can talk about conflict yourself. You know, it gives you accountability, and it also gives you an opportunity to realize you're not in this by yourself.
Yeah, that's really good. I want to thank you all for that. How do you all, or have there been times that you in your marriage have been challenged or even thought about or contemplated or wanted to give up? And if you can you talk to us about one of those challenging times and then how you sort of push through it?
You want
okay, we want rock, paper, scissors.
Or
I'll start.
you can do the politics thing and not answer the question and just say whatever you want.
Yeah. Well, I'll start. There are stressors that come into the marriage that you don't anticipate. Raising children is one of them. Multiple moves, jobs, looking for jobs. When you have children, trying to balance the issue of two individuals working outside the home and those type of things, they can bring in situations that feel so daunting. The sitting in traffic of commuting, taking your children back and forth to school, the sicknesses that come with all that. There are seasons in marriage, in our marriage, that you feel hopeless. You feel like, is this it? So it becomes daunting. And I think, for me, you start looking at, this is all that is, then, where's the marriages that I see on TV? Where are all those things that come up? Because that reality is not our reality here. And then you just don't have time. You're just caught. And you find yourself going through seasons of just functioning. You become almost a marital couple that's surviving. And there's no time to think about where you're going or so forth. It's in those times that you kind of feel plateaued and flat. And the issue is, somebody said to us a long time ago, I never forget, Phillips at Ephesus Church, Edward Phipps said to us, these are going to be challenging years, but stay the course. Yeah. That's all he said. And it just meant so much all these years later. So I don't know if that directly answers your question, but that's a perspective I wanted to get.
Yeah. And what Tony said moments ago was that we decided at the very beginning, regardless, we are in this together. We are in this together. No matter what, we are staying together. So that never came up as an option. But in every marriage, I would imagine, because I know it has been in ours, you have seasons or chapters, in your journey. And we started out the two of us very young. I say very young because our generation, David, we had responsibilities when we were younger, because with both of us, we were the first in our families to, go through college and complete college, with a college degree. And then we helped to take care of our families. I graduated from college and went home and helped to take care of my mother, who was on disability, but had sacrificed everything to get me through college. So when I say we were old, we were mature emotionally regarding responsibilities. So, but we were young in life, but we had experienced more because of our family, the dynamics within our families, and feeling very responsible and grateful to our families for all of their sacrifice. So we get married, we're still young in it. We don't know everything for sure. Mm-hmm. And then, you start your family. And then I know with me, I was one of those, we've heard, Time Magazine had it on the cover years ago, helicopter parents. That was me. And so, I was that person. And poor Tony, it was like, hey, Tony, I'm going to take them to this and I'm going to take them to that, and that was a stress, being so focused on the children and the children's needs and running here and there and working, things like that. And then of course, moving and having to start all over. Those were definite challenges. And then, to consider the church right in that dynamic, regardless of where we were, and feeling like we were in a fishbowl, everybody just constantly looking and having comments and giving advice. Not that we shared anything, and that's key. We didn't share anything personally, but people felt that they could diagnose pastors and their families from afar, and some of them were well intentioned, but it was just it made us who we are, going through this together and recognizing, wow, I did that. I'm so sorry. I did not realize that, and I think a key experiences was when we started to experience death in our families, starting with my grandmother. And that year was 1990. We'll never forget it, because my grandfather passed away in January of that year. My grandfather was Irvin Cox, Baltimore, Maryland. My great uncle, his brother, Leon Cox, passed in August. And my grandmother, Elsie Cox, passed in October. So that was all 1990. And what we went through, with being there emotionally, and the pain and the hurt and the devastation that this was happening right on us. It just takes you to another place. And then my mother died in 1998, and Tony was amazing. I'm my mother's only child, and Tony just took over, because I just couldn't, and always I was dependent upon to be that person that can do it and fix things and see it through it, and I couldn't at that point. And I'll never forget, he wrote her obituary, and that meant so much to me. And it was deep. It was really deep. And what he had observed and what he learned through the course of our marriage up to that time, about my mom. And then that just took our relationship, as far as I'm concerned, even deeper. When you go through those valleys, deep, deep valleys, and then you come out of it even stronger and closer, is miraculous. Nothing short of miraculous. And so I can say it on this end, I'm grateful for those challenges, but going through it, I didn't have much gratitude, but I still wanted to learn what I was supposed to learn by going through that, and needed help with accepting it. And I will tell you, Trevor and Edith Frazier will always be like heroes to me, because Edith, being an accomplished therapist, she's actually, Dr. Trevor and Dr. Edith Frazier, both accomplished counselors, therapists, he being a pastor and Edith being a social worker. She reached out to me as well when my mother died, and she said, if you need, I'm offering my service to you if you need to talk about, because grief is a bear, India. It's a killer of yourself, and trying to live with it is not easy. And she shared her experiences with losing family members that were very close to her. And I called her, and I'll never forget it. She helped me through tremendous times and valley situations where I would recommend that kind of help to everyone. Yeah.
You see, the interesting thing is, a lot of couples, when they meet adversity, they think that adversity is going to pull them apart, or they grow, or they widen the gap between themselves. But oftentimes it's adversity that can bring us together if we know how to handle it. If we know how to handle it appropriately, if we see marriage and relationships as a partnership where, we win together, we lose together, I think that goes a long way. And so I want to thank you for that transparency and for sharing that, because I think it's important for some couples to know you're going through a rough time, but if you see it and attack it together, that there's value in that, and that can strengthen a relationship. So, I want to thank you all for that.
you.
The next question on the list sort of takes us in a completely different direction, and I don't know how to make a good, smooth transition to it. So I'm just gonna. How do you all keep things spicy in your relationship? And then, forewarning for those members of Brinkow, we're going to talk to your pastor and his wife about sex right now, so you may want to turn down the TV. All right. How do you all keep things spicy in your relationship? Not just sex, but intimacy as well, connection, whatever. Just tell us what you want to tell us. We're going to start with Dr. Anthony Medley first. We're going to put him out there first.
You know, I will say this. 36 years into our marriage, I'm still very attracted to my wife. My wife, seeing her, knowing her, is appealing to me. And that comes with all the other benefits and blessings of marital life. Amen.
I don't understand. I don't understand what you mean. Like, I'm confused. I don't understand what you mean.
Yeah. Okay. What don't you understand?
I don't know. I'm a young couple. You used to be my youth director. Help me. I don't understand.
Well, I obviously failed before as a youth director with Bible Bowl. So, right. but what is important is, again, there are, needs to still date when you can, non-COVID. A text message, a call to know you care about the person, a touch. They're just basic things that brings a security to your spouse to let you know you still are the woman, you still are the man. And I think that those signals are within couples, within us, and knowing when to trigger those signals are critically important in your couple, because you miss them, then you start questioning things. But it's knowing your spouse and the signals that assure them of certain things, or being secure enough to say, I need that, or I miss that. So it's both ways. One, you learn, but you're constantly learning. And what makes the constant learning take place, of course, is the freedom to express yourself, to talk, those type of things. So all those for me speaks to intimacy, sexuality, and everything else. It's not just the act, it's the life that makes it happen. It's in the kitchen, it's the touch, it's the hug, it's all those things that for me demonstrates the intimate life 36 years later.
Mm-hmm. And I'll add to that very safely. Tony knows what I need, and he provides it. He does tremendously well providing my needs, and that you can take to the bank. And the underscore here is that I would say, know your partner. Know your partner, whether, no matter what that means to you. You just got to know them, and be willing to be there, to provide those needs. I'll give you some examples through the years. And you know what, David, I'm just reflecting. You asked us about work-life balance. That was one of your sub questions, and we didn't touch on that. I apologize. That was not intentional. That slipped, and now it's back to me because I am, in my role at Howard University Hospital, I've not had any day off since COVID-19 hit our communities. And so and even before COVID, leaving the house at 0:30 every day. And it was like I'm going off to war. And it is a battle. And it truly is. And Tony always gets up that early, at that really early hour, and has worship with me before I leave. and before I walk out the door, and sees me out. I mean, he watches me back out of the garage, you know, he sees me out as I'm driving off in the driveway every single day. To me, that's intimacy right there. And I've said to him many a morning, you don't have to, this is just, you know, we had a late night last night, or I came in very late the night before because of some challenges or some things, you know, some, you know, patient matters that were, you know, emergent or urgent. And I would come in late and still get up very early to leave. And he's waiting for me, you know, to make sure, you know, and calling me and texting me throughout the day, and letting me know that he thinks about me, things like that. To me, that's the glue, you know, that's part of my needs. And I didn't even know that before he started providing that. And I'm like, boom, yeah, there we go. He's saying to me, you're not in this by yourself. You know, everybody else in the house is teleworking, you know, they can do that. I can't do that. And so my needs were met, are being met in that regard. And that means the world to me. So, and he is very concerned about my work hours and my rest and actually my lack of rest, because I'm all in. I am just all in. I don't go halfway. When I'm committed to something, or people, or, you know, responsibilities, I'm all in. And he sees things in me that I don't see in myself, when he knows, you might want to pull back a little bit. You might want to, can you get home earlier today? You know, because you need more time, India. And I don't always, he'll be the first to tell you, I don't always receive that. Well, what do you mean? Unpack that statement, Tony. I'll say, unpack that. What did you mean by that? You know, and that's one of his phrases that he says to me, and I put it right back on. So, and he'll explain, I just see in you that you are very tired, and we are dealing with a deadly disease that will take advantage of any vulnerability in our physical health. You know, and I desperately do not want to become exposed, and more so than myself being exposed. I don't want to bring that home to him or to our family, to our children, you know. So he knows what to say to get my attention, and whether I like it or not, I have to swallow, I have to pause and truly think about it, you know. So yeah,
that's amazing, and that's beautiful. I it's almost changing my opinion of your husband, Dr. Medley. It's almost making me think of him as an actual, you know, nice human being. You know, not the guy who 5 years ago chopped me in my throat. You know, it's not the same guy. You know, I'm seeing a loving, caring, a compassionate guy. Just so no, but I want to thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful. For those of you who are watching, if you have any questions, we're going to take questions in a second. I got one more question for you all, and then we'll take whatever questions may arise out of the chat. What advice would you all give someone who's contemplating marriage now, about how marriage works? Someone who's maybe dating or thinking about taking that next step. What practical advice would you all give them as they're contemplating it?
Well, yeah, of course, this is something that as pastors we do often. I would recommend, first of all, that if they come from healthy families, to get buy-in from their families as to where they're going, in terms of if they're looking for someone or if they found someone, that'd be helpful. That the relationship should always be someone who's going to build you up and not tear you down. So whatever your values are, your principles are, the person that you're going to marry should complement that and be totally supportive of all the values that you have as a person. They should not conflict with that or take you from that or pull you from the things, your dreams, your visions, your aspirations, your morals, your spirituality, your religious culture. Those type of things are important. Get help, seek counseling, seek premarital counseling is important. And I often tell individuals that if you're contemplating marriage, talk to a newlywed, talk to somebody who's raising children, talk to a couple that's post-children, and then talk to a senior couple. And, ask them, tell them, I'm about to get married. What advice would you give me since you are living it now? And so that's kind of the journey. I would say that marriage is the hardest thing you will ever do, but it's the most rewarding thing you'll ever experience. So it's a combination of those things. And finally, for me, it's once you make a commitment to be married, there is no back door. You have to take for better, for worse, sickness and health, richer and poorer, biggest emphasis on poor. You have to take those things seriously because marriage does not come with an exit clause. It is for life.
Mm-hmm. I would add to that. I am more introspective now than I was 36 years ago. I think I was more of an extrovert then, and now I still am an extrovert, but now I put more emphasis on what's going on inside of me and really pausing to evaluate that or analyze it. And so I would recommend that we spend time in personal relationships with our Creator, with our Heavenly Father. And by doing that, really getting to know who we are. Because that matters. What are our triggers? What do I value more than anything else? And what are things that I would compromise on that were positive reasons versus what are just game changers, that I just won't. But if we're not clear about that, it'll be very easy to be influenced, to go, another way, because the person whom I'm attracted to or the person whom I love has a stronger personality, and I might lean more towards him if in a relationship, him or her. So I'm always about when it's about change, I want to begin with myself. I do want to do what Mahatma Gandhi has said, immortal words, be the change you want to see. Wow. In the world, he said, but I want to be the change I want to see in others as well. And I think I have a responsibility, and I think that we as individuals have a responsibility to be our best and to provide our best every day. And with each new day, we have an opportunity to start from scratch, a clean slate with God, because I have a biblical worldview. So yeah. I want to say to God every day, thank you for this opportunity to do it all over again. But this time I need to do it right, and doing it right doesn't mean being perfect. It means I'm trying to be like Christ every day. And it's not easy, and I'm not always on point with that. And, but every day I get a chance to try it again. And in relationships, I believe that that's key, absolutely key.
Okay. Awesome. So we have some questions that have come in. So what we'll do is we'll break for this really short commercial break, and then we'll take questions for the last 9 minutes that we have left. All right. So we'll be right back with you.
The Relationship Ministries Department of the Allegheny East Conference is a family of ministries that seeks to engage, enrich, and empower families, men, singles, couples, and parents to have healthy and whole relationships. To access the many resources we have available to you, your church, or your family, visit us on the web at www.visitaec.org/relationshipmin.
All right. All right. So we have some comments or some questions that have come in. We'll take this first one. This one comes from Tina. How different was it to keep your independence and also grow together in a marriage?
Wow, that's a great question, Tina. That was hard because, you know, because you love your husband so much, and because, you know, I'm in love with him, I want him to be happy and to be pleased. And so initially in our first years when we were younger in this marriage, I tend to acclimate, towards his way, or his opinion or his perspective. And that wasn't threatening to me at all, being a professional myself where I was in leadership positions on my job. I never felt threatened or less than a person because I value Tony's opinion, not necessarily more than mine, but I just respected it, So, but through the years, I would, in my growth journey, I would be a lot more readily to say, I don't see it that way. And maybe because I'm older and much older, I see it differently. And so I think it comes with time and the maturation of your marriage, and but maintaining that level of independence. Because I remember, early on, the money I earned, the money he earned went right into the pot, right? And it was like an accountability kind of thing. This is our budget, and this is what percentage you're going to spend on this, and this is a percentage you're going to spend on that. Or if I started working part-time because we started having children, or I took some time off with our young children, then it was a lot more accountability, because I needed to get that money from him because I wasn't bringing in my own money, so to say, to contribute. But, hearing questions like, Tony, I need $25, he'll say, well, what happened to the money I gave you last week? Kind of thing like that. So now, then we're getting older. And if he would say that kind of statement to me, I would say, excuse me, I work too. Okay, so I'm going to have some funds here that I don't have to account for. So we got that, didn't we? We got that, So
and now he's begging for the money.
Well, yeah.
No, he's
yeah, that's true. But
I mean, like,
okay. But let me use my quarters right there. Let me add to that. I hope we're modeling that. We both are in leadership roles. I talk for a living. Talking this whole time is easy for either one of us. But to the question asked, respecting the independence, it doesn't, I don't have to compete with India. She is an independent person by herself. And her independence and her professionalism does not make me less of the husband in the marriage. As pastors, she has always made more money than me. That's nothing new. But we have grown to the point where her success, supporting her in her success, and her supporting me in my success, makes us complete. That's what it does for us. We don't stifle each other because God has gifted both of us. And we have a responsibility to allow the giftedness of God to be fully manifested in each of us as a couple.
Wow. Okay, we have a few others. I think this is an important question. This comes from Tiffany. How are you handling parenting adult children?
Oh, you guys should ask them.
Yeah, they're handling us. It gets to a point where, first of all, we are very close to our adult children, and we praise God for that. Although daughter lives out and our son will be out as soon as he can, they're both fully gainfully employed. We like each other. That helps a lot, and I think it's the relationships that were established early on with how we interacted, the trust factor, the willingness to share without judgment, the respect in their decisions. Yeah, it comes with some parenting challenging, but today we just like them. We seek them for things, and it's fun having adult parents who can do things, especially when you go out to eat and they take the tab and pay for it. That's a wonderful experience.
Adult children.
Your adult children to do those kinds of things. So
Can't wait.
so it is good, and there is a mutual respect that we have for each other, and we're glad to say that our adult children, still belong to the church. And with PK's, David, with us, there have been so many horrific stories. I'm not saying that they're perfect or they're like us. They have their own pathway that they have to follow, their own, relationship with God that they have to follow that is independent of ours. But we just like them. They like us, and we still get together. They still love their mother, and they're still very protective. My daughter's with me. My son's with, it's those gender things that make the difference for us.
Yeah, there were some turning points, Tiffany. When they came home from college, Milan, our daughter being the oldest, when she came home, when she graduated and came home to live from college was a major adjustment. She was at Oakwood for 4 years, and she would come and go as she pleased. Of course, her last 2 years, she was living in West Oaks. They had their own apartments there with their roommates and everything. And then you come home, you're an adult, and you have a job, thankfully, thank the Lord. And yet, we still needed to know, when are you coming home? Because it's dangerous out there. This isn't Huntsville, and there are a lot of other things going on in the communities, and should we put on the alarm? Do we lock the door? Those kind of things. And even asking those questions would make them uncomfortable. When Anthony graduated from Oakwood after spending 4 years down there, and he comes home, it was a transition, and they needed to know that we respected them as adults, and we needed to know, especially me in this case, that you're respecting our traditions here in our home, and this home will always be your home. But I would be a little bit edgy sometimes if it's like after midnight, or 1 or 2 in the morning, and we don't know. And Tony would fall asleep easily, and I'm like, where are they? So we came up with this agreement. We sat down at the table. We came up with this agreement. If you're going to be out after midnight, you text us and you just let us know. Just let us know we're okay. I'm okay, and I plan to be home, or I'm going to go to my friend's house. I'm going to spend the night at my friend's house or something like that. And that worked for us. But I just wanted Tiffany and others to know it wasn't easy. And they needed to learn and know that we respected them as adults and respected their decisions.
Sure. Can I also add, there was something else that we did. I did especially with our daughter and our son. If you ever find yourself in a place that you should not be, that it's in 3 o'clock in the morning and you feel unsafe, I will always come and get you without judgment. Doesn't matter where it is. We established that early also, without judgment. If it's dragging you, if it's dragging you from somebody's bed, I will come get you without judgment. And that has also helped us move along.
Or in an environment where there were things,
Sure.
that you wouldn't want us to know about.
We will rescue you if we need to.
No questions asked. We're coming in for the rescue. Just want to make sure you're safe. And I underscore that kind of relationship too, because Milan is very, very close to her dad, and Anthony is the one. If I'm working late, it's not only Tony calling me, Anthony's calling me. Where are you? Why are you still there? What are you doing, Mom? When are you coming home? That kind of thing. So there you go.
Listen, I think this was absolutely wonderful. We're out of time for today, but I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for sharing this, for opening up your home, for opening up your relationships. I think that I know I got a good amount from it, especially that last nugget that you mentioned. I can't even fathom. I can't fathom that right now with my 10-year-old. But anyway.
Yeah.
I want you all to do this one thing for me. Give us one thing that you all, both of you, give us one thing that you all want people to leave this conversation with.
God knew what he was doing when he created marriage. And it is a wonderful blessing to be married through it all. I want to encourage any couple that's out there who is going through those phases of marriage, stay the course. Stay the course, stay in love. Choose to be in love every day. Marriage was God's idea. God created marriage and he knew what he was doing. Without marriage, without me being married, I would not be the person that I am today. And God and marriage has everything to do with that for me. So stay married.
I totally agree. And in all things, know God. Know God and know yourself.
All right. Well, I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for coming on. I want to applaud both of you for your transparency and your openness. And I want to thank you all for coming. Any parting words before we go?
We thank you for having us.
Oh.
I will always respect and love your unique relationship that the two of you have through the years. Thank you. We are humbled and feel privileged to have been invited. Thank you.
Well, I only wanted you on, but we got some nuggets from him. And the Pats play the Giants, but both our teams are sorry right now, so it doesn't really even matter. It doesn't even matter. Who cares?
And I would just like to say that, Paul, we always talk about the thorn in his flesh, and he could not identify what it was. But I know who is one of my thorns in my flesh. It is my good friend, my man, Dr. David DeVron.
Sent to you by God. Yeah, that thorn was sent by God. Yeah, to torment you. Yes.
Really, I appreciate what you're doing, man, with your relationship ministry. I also appreciate your family. And all jokes aside, man, God bless you. You're doing excellent things, man.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for coming. We're glad to have you for our online audience. Just stay tuned to the Relationship Ministries page for some other interesting things that we have coming up. And
I'm sorry, please, sending our love to Denise and Dana.
Oh yes, I will let them know. I will let them know. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us, and have a wonderful and productive